Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your guy Rudy SKC, and welcome to a brand new video. Another day, another Detroit sports team win. The Detroit Pistons won again. They beat the Portland Trailblazers 118 to 115 in Detroit on a night where they honored Chauncey Billups as he came back to Detroit. And what a win this was. And it's over, I want to mention, a Portland Trailblazers team that's been starting to put it together, right? They have Anthony Simons. They have Shaedon Sharpe. They have, Scoot Henderson, who hasn't looked great, let's be honest. They have DeAndre Ayton. And they have Chauncey Billups, who's obviously a coach that's going to push his team to be defensive-minded. That's who he's always been since he started his coaching career. And as of recently, Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons have been amazing. Last game, they took care of business against Milwaukee, against Giannis in Giannis's house. A few games ago, they beat the Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. So as of recent, we've been starting to see them turn it up a little bit, kind of like how the Pistons have been doing. But the Pistons were able to get the win against this Trailblazers team despite having an extremely sluggish start where they immediately put themselves into basically a 22-point hole in the first quarter. And a lot of that is attributed to the change in lineup that happened today. And it was kind of a shock to all of us fans when we found out that Ausar Thompson was not going to be in the lineup. He was out due to some kind of illness. Hopefully it's nothing major and he's back for the next game on Wednesday. But we inserted Beasley into the lineup today. And if you guys follow me on Twitter, which by the way, follow me at Ani4Dubs, but early before the game started, I tweeted out saying, oh my God, you have Beasley and Hardaway in the starting lineup. Cade's going to have 15 assists. Now here's the trade-off that happens when you throw in Ausar Thompson versus Malik Beasley. Defense versus extra shooting. And, frankly, tonight, Malik Beasley had a pretty terrible night shooting the basketball. I believe he was 1 of 10. And his lone make was deep into the fourth quarter when the Pistons absolutely needed it, and it was kind of like a dagger shot, actually. So shout out to Malik Beasley for that. But he did not have a great night shooting. And, he's not had a great night shooting the last few games, but, it's a slump, and even through the slump, he's still making big shots. So I'm not too worried about Beasley, by the way. But you saw the difference that happened in the first quarter. Cade wasn't being aggressive. They were sloppy with the basketball, turning it over. They looked like they didn't have energy after beating Minnesota on Saturday. And the Portland Trailblazers, they got out to a huge lead. Anthony Simons, they were hitting every single three that they wanted. They were able to, the amount of times that they were able to get penetration into the paint was honestly ridiculous. And that's what Ausar brings to the table. That's what he stops. And I think there were like the first two drives or the first 2 points that Portland got, both of those baskets were on someone driving by Cade, and Cade's a great on-ball defender. But that just goes to show that, when you don't have Ausar out there and the team is not locked in on the defensive side of the basketball to start off, things can get a little out of hand. And that's what happened for the Pistons tonight to start off the first quarter. So that's just something that I want to highlight, the value of Ausar Thompson to this team. And actually, I will say this, if Ausar is not playing in the starting lineup, I would like to see what happens if you slot Ron Holland in instead. Move Tim Hardaway to the 2 and then put Ron Holland in at the 3 and see how it goes. Because that's the guy, immediately when he came into the game today, he was instant energy. He was getting steals, he was getting deflections, he was in the grill of Anthony Simons and Shaedon Sharpe, and he was driving stuff to the rim. I mean, he was great energy, and that's what the Pistons need when your shooters are having an off kind of game. The big concern since Ivy has been out is when Cade is not scoring the ball, who's generating offense? And, going into the offseason, we kind of hoped that would be Tobias, but, just from how things have turned out so far this year, he's okay, but he can't be that second guy consistently on day in and day out when Ivy's out. So the Pistons have to find a way to generate that offense. And if you look over the last few games, it's been mostly generated through defense and getting out on transition. And, if it's Ausar or Ron flying down, or you're kicking it out to shooters like Hardaway, Fontecchio, and Beasley. By the way, Fontecchio, great game today. I really feel like recently he's been starting to find his shooting stroke. But he had some huge baskets today. He had an and one three-pointer in the third quarter, which is pretty sick. Just please, for the sake of God, stop dribbling the ball. There should be, I think that we should impose like a ban on Simone and Duren from like bringing the ball up the court. But dude, just Be spot up shooter, get the ball. If you can't get your shot, like move it on, okay? Because he's great at that, but I feel like when he starts to get out of rhythm, it's when he starts driving to the rim. And I think he has some talent there that's untapped. But for right now, I feel like until that he kind of gets into the groove of his game, he should just stick to, just being this kind of spot up shooter that, he was for the most of tonight. So, just wanted to give shout out to Fontecchio there. He had a great game. But going back to this issue of what happens when, Cade is not in the game or maybe his shot isn't falling. You don't really have a secondary ball creator. Sasser had some great minutes in the fourth quarter today, and, I really hope that he can kind of take some of that load offensively. But the Pistons really, I think that's from this game, the big takeaway going forward is if you need to survive without Ivy, who's going to be that guy who can step up and take who can take shots, who can create their own offense when Cade is not on the court. Because that's what we saw out of the Pistons and kind of frankly how they struggled, especially like late in the third quarter after Cade came out. So that's one thing I wanted to highlight. So, that little period as well as the first quarter, something the Pistons really need to clean up. So talking about the player of the game, Cade Cunningham, he had another huge game today, 32 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, just amazing. He was amazing all night from start to finish. I mean, I said on defense he gave up 2 early drives to start off where someone just basically blew by him. But basically, other than that, his shot was falling. He was excellent distributing the ball. For the most part, he did a great job limiting his turnovers. I think there were a couple that you would like to avoid. There was the one when he was trying to find Hardaway on the fast break and he kind of threw it out of bounds. That's one where it's that's kind of just fatigue, loss of concentration, and he can't hit Hardaway. Maybe the ball slipped a little bit. We don't know. So those are the things that you want to see him avoid. But he was great for the most part. He was rebounding the ball. He was really locked into the game. One thing I want to say though is, I mentioned this in the last video when talking about the Jimmy Butler rumors, but in order for the Pistons to be successful, Cade Cunningham needs to be the number one option, and he has to do better in the fourth quarter. Today he was 0 for 5 in the fourth quarter, and we've kind of seen at points in the year, I'm not saying all the time, there have been points in the year where he's gotten really cold in the fourth quarter, and maybe that's due to fatigue or some other factor, but he has to be better. I mean, we've also seen him play great in the fourth quarter. We've seen him hit a couple game winners. We've seen him take over at stretches in the fourth quarter, hit big shots, right? That's not taking anything away from that. But on a more consistent basis, he needs to be better in the fourth quarter. You cannot let Anthony Simons outplay you. So that's one thing that, Cade needs to look out for. And, frankly, he had 30 points going into the fourth quarter. He was 0 for 5. He ended up getting a couple free throws, so he got to 32. But this should have been a fourth quarter that got Cade to, closer to 35 to 40 points for this whole game. And, if he puts up that kind of stat line night in and night out, that's when you start getting more recognized by the national media. That's when your all-star voting starts to go up. And I don't want to say this without, mentioning, obviously I understand that in the fourth quarter, the Portland today, they blitzed Cade. You almost didn't see Cade without a double team on any kind of penetration, on any kind of, off a screen, or anytime he drove into the basket and got deep into the basket. He even got triple teamed a few times. Not taking anything away from that. But that's the kind of defense and physicality that you're going to face in the playoffs, right? And, if what we want to see from the Pistons going forward is for them to get to one of those, top playoff seeds, get out of the play-in, get into one of those top playoff seeds, and see Cade and Jaden Ivey, hopefully if he comes back, and the rest of the Pistons perform in those pressure situations. We need Cade to be able to play better in fourth quarters where, teams are kind of, there's an unsaid rule in the game where you get to play with much more physicality, with much more tenacity in the fourth quarter. So, Cade needs to be better there, but overall, another fantastic game by our superstar. Really, he should guaranteed be an all-star this year. I think for me, the goal this year is to see if he can make All-NBA. I doubt it, but we'll see. Fingers crossed on that. He just needs to keep putting up monster performances, especially when Ivy's out and he's able to have the ball more and he's able to take more shots. So, absolutely fantastic game from Cade, and hope he keeps it up going forward. Tim Hardaway had an incredible game today, especially in the fourth quarter. Like I mentioned, when some of Cade's shots weren't falling, and then when he has this normal like 2-3 minute rest in the fourth quarter, when JB takes him out, Tim Hardaway just caught on fire, and he ended up having 27 points. I think I counted that he was 4 for 4 in the fourth quarter. And 3 of them were threes. They were absolutely huge because Anthony Simons on the other side was bombing threes. And he was making some deep ones too. It wasn't like he was getting easy shots. He was launching some insane threes, and he was getting them to go in. And for the Pistons, it was Hardaway who actually who was able to keep them in the game. So huge game by Tim Hardaway. Now I will say this: I'm not sure how sustainable it is for Tim Hardaway to score 27 points on a daily basis. So like I mentioned earlier, the Pistons are going to have to find some kind of, secondhand generation when Cade is not in the game, or to help Cade so that it doesn't completely fall, on Cade to do everything in the fourth quarter, because obviously we know that's not possible, right? Like Cade, like I said today, he has to play like a little bit better, but that doesn't mean that, the Pistons just have to completely throw everything on him and he has to carry the team, right? Other people need to step up, and today it was Hardaway. And, maybe this is what it is. Maybe you're just going to have people having to step up daily on a night in and night out basis to help Cade, depending on the game. So today it was Hardaway. Maybe next time it'll be Beasley. Next time it'll be Asar. Who knows? But for the Pistons to be successful, I think going forward without Ivy, they need to find that consistently secondary scorer. So just a couple takeaways from the game. Duren, he was great tonight. I think he's been great the last few games. I think the stats, he had 14 points, 12 rebounds. He was amazing on the offensive glass. He was playing hard out there on defense. Maybe it's because, DeAndre Ayton isn't much of a three-point shooter. We'll see what happens when he has to play another stretch big. But Duren, he's been playing his butt off the last few games, and that's exactly what we want to see for his development. He's looking more of like the Duren that we saw that he could become during his rookie season. So, great game by Duren. I wanted to mention that. And then for the final portion of this video, I want to address something that has kind of been circulating on social media recently regarding the Jared Goff chance within LCA. So if you guys don't know, basically, fans, they chant Jared Goff at a bunch of Michigan sports events, right? Whether it's, obviously Lions, Pistons, Red Wings, Tigers. They've been doing it since the Lions have been winning so much. I think they were even doing it at Michigan football games, Michigan basketball games. So, that's kind of something fun that the Michigan sports fans can kind of get around. But there's been some discourse on social media, particularly Twitter, where people are saying that, the Jared Goff chance should go, especially when you're rooting for a different team, right? If you're at a Pistons game, why are you chanting Jared Goff when the team is doing something well? And I wanted to give my thoughts on this. So I guess my opinion on it is kind of indifferent. I could totally get around it, right? The Jared Goff chance, I definitely think, if you look at the revival of sports in this city, it started with the Lions, right? It started with the emergence of the Lions. The Red Wings, they kind of did it last year, and they took a step back this year, right? But maybe they're starting to get going again. The Tigers just had one of the most magical seasons in MLB history, and now the Pistons are on the come up. And you're taking it from where it started from, right? That's the roots, the Jared Goff chance. That's what got the sports pulse in this city back from the dead, where all 4 teams were terrible. So from that sense, I'm okay with it. But where I think that it should not cross its limits is in Pistons games. For example, when Cade is taking over the game, in my opinion, there should be Cunningham chance, right? When Jaden Ivey was injured, right, when he was like writhing in pain, instead of Jared Goff chance, maybe chant Jaden Ivey's name, in situations like that, I think that, us as fans, we get super excited, but we have to have some kind of situational awareness. So from that extent, I would say that the Jared Goff chance, I still think they're okay to have them at Pistons games, right? But, at certain points, we need to understand that it's not the correct situation for that. And, maybe you for Red Wings games, you have Let's Go Red Wings chance, or you have Larkin chance, or Raymond chance, or something like that. The Jared Goff chance, it's a unifying chant that I'm okay with it transcending just football. But I think you should have something special for that particular team as well. I think I saw like I think Cade was shooting free throws a few games ago, and LCA started chanting, MVP, MVP. That's the type of stuff that you want to see from your young superstar who's been having a magical season. And by the way, I'm only saying the second perspective because I saw people on social media, like, for example, Ashton the trainer, who's Cade's trainer, he was talking bad about the Jared Goff chance and saying that, when you're at Pistons, I mean, maybe it's because he's a Cowboys fan, right? But at Pistons game, that's something that you want to avoid. And that's kind of where this is coming from, in the sense that, I think we should be a little bit more situationally aware so that we can prevent some kind of friction within the fan base. Okay, that's all I'm going to say on that topic. But yeah, the Jared Goff chance, I'm totally okay with them. But, just keep them controlled depending on the environment surrounding the game. Okay, so that's all I have to say about this game. We'll be back for a Pistons recap on Wednesday, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.